Parenthood racist? So Cecile Richards, who used to be the director of Planned Parenthood, passed away yesterday. Rest in power. You were amazing. Not that anyone would know with this new algorithm we've got though, right? Like in the before times, my FYP would have been full of people singing her praises, talking about her amazing contributions to this radical notion that everyone deserves to be in charge of their own body, right? But today, instead, I got this video that I'm not going to link to or mention that claimed that Planned Parenthood was racist and that those of us who support it are also racist. And they often like to point at Margaret Sanger, which is kind of a straw man argument because no one is arguing that she wasn't racist. She absolutely was, right? She was involved in the eugenics movement. She said that it was like this way to, quote, weed out the unfit. And I think it is important to think about like the timeline here, right? So at the time, eugenics were considered a science. And as with all sciences, it was interpreted through its context. So if someone says weed out the unfit in the 1920s, who did much of society think of as unfit? Certainly people of color fit the bill, right? Alongside other populations. And a lot of historians did find that Sanger herself never connected unfitness with race. However, and let's be real clear here, okay? Like in a white supremacist society, physical and mental fitness are always, always, always judged based on race, right? That makes eugenics inherently racist. And that racism harmed the movement. She even spoke to white supremacist groups to promote birth control methods. And she supported forced sterilization, right? That is directly anti-choice. A forced sterilization? You can't excuse that shit. She did, however, have one really radical idea at the time. And that idea was that people should only have the children that they wanted. Radical, right? I mean, I guess nowadays it kind of might be again. And you can read more about that in this article on NPR. In 1916, she opened the first birth control clinic in Brooklyn, which was raided by the police and shut down immediately. Then after much more fighting, she got her permanent clinic in 1930. And by then, a lot of people agreed with her pro-choice stance, even though they didn't agree with any of the other crap. One of those people was W.E.B. Du Bois, right? A famous sociologist who studied at Fisk and who taught at Fisk. He worked really closely with her because he believed it too, right? And that's because many Black people at the time believed that. They still live with the memory of enslavement, right? Where for the most part, they did not get to choose whether or not to have children, or even when to have them, or even who to have children with, right? Enslavers legally treated Black people like animals and bred them, right? Bred them. The history of that is so disgusting and so undertaught, like really undertaught. Many people still haven't heard it, right? But Du Bois, he knew it, right? And he told it. And together with Margaret Sanger, he founded the Negro Project, which put Black doctors and nurses in charge of local birth control clinics in Black neighborhoods all across the country, right? Now, because of white supremacy, it didn't work out the way it should have, right? And many Black women ended up with white practitioners who dismissed their fears and deepened these racist health practices of the South, including in my city, in Nashville. Sanger's clinics eventually merged to form the Planned Parenthood Federation of America, which has solidly condemned Sanger and which has done innumerable good for our country. So what do we make of all this, right? So the way I see it, Sanger was a racist. Even if she never expressed ill will toward Black people specifically, she engaged with white supremacist structures to further her own goals and ideals. That is something most white people do, and then we get really angry when called out on it. However, even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? People should only have the children they want. And that is why Planned Parenthood is such an incredibly crucial and important part of our history.